All right, today we are going to talk about if Clubhouse will stand the test of time. So as of this recording, they just raised at $1 billion valuation. Andreessen just backed them just the other day. Oh, this morning, by the way, Neil, get this. I don't know how much football you watch, but Deshaun Jackson, the wide receiver, joined my room. And now we're homies now. We follow each other. That means we're homies.
I
So
don't know if that means
Clubhouse,
you're homies. It just means you follow each other.
yes, it means that. But will Clubhouse stand the test of time? So there's a lot of variables up in the air right now. And just a reminder for everyone, it's a social app. It's a social audio app where you can go and you can make chat rooms and all that. And a lot of people can join. So Neil, keen to get your thoughts first on if you think it's going to stand the test of time, why or why not?
I think it will stand the test of time. I don't think people will use the Twitter version of Clubhouse because Twitter is trying to crush them, which I don't think is going to work out well. I think it'll last. What I think will happen is a lot of people will use it really heavily for the first few months it comes out. And then you get a lot of users that don't use it as much, but they still use it over time. As they add 100 million, 200 million users instead of a few million, that's when I think things really change with Clubhouse. Because even if not everyone's as active, there's just so many people, it's a numbers game, that it'll do well. The tricky part is how can you monetize as a user? And they're starting to roll some stuff out based on the TechCrunch article that I ended up reading, where creators can potentially end up monetizing. And I think that's really cool.
One thing we talked about, Neil, too, was when you think about the moderators. So as they open up to Android because 75% of people are on Android devices. And if they open it up, you're going to have a lot of users pouring in. How are you going to moderate these rooms? Because people just don't know how to do it. So that is something you brought up as a concern. Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit before I jump in?
Yeah. So when you think about moderation on a social network like Facebook or Twitter, you can do a lot of auto detection through text. How do you do that with audio? Now, with audio, you can moderate to some extent because YouTube is able to decipher what you're saying in their videos and transcribe it, which means there's a way to detect what people are saying. But it just becomes trickier to moderate versus because people can talk whenever they want and they can stop talking. So when you're in a group, they can start saying something and then they can stop. It's really hard to moderate on demand like you can with YouTube or Facebook. Someone posts something, you already automatically can block it because you just know, hey, they said something that they shouldn't have. Let's just pull it. It's really tricky to do that with voice. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm saying it's going to be harder.
Got it. So here's my take on it. So by the way, Neil and I were talking about two different types of moderating. So I'm talking about in the context of when you start a room, you need to have a good moderator to control the room and rein it in, because you basically aren't, in fact, every time you start a group, you're starting like a Facebook group. You have to control the community in there. To Neil's point, in the terms and conditions, Clubhouse does state that they're recording each and every room. So this is what I think is scary, right? Clubhouse, to Neil's point, the way they're looking to monetize, the founders are saying right now, ads are not the way. They're planning to add tipping. They're planning to add the ability to charge for rooms, and they'll take a cut and that type of stuff. That's interesting, and I would love to see that. What I think would be scary is at the end of the day, when you think about a Google or a Facebook or any of these ad platforms, their goal is to gobble up as much attention as they can. So this is very much in their world, right? They do not want Clubhouse getting bigger and bigger. So you look at all the ripping off that's been happening in the last couple of years. Twitter's already doing it with Spaces, right? They aren't doing that well with it. But the one thing that might hold Clubhouse back is if you have a big platform like a Facebook or Google come in and slow things down, because the way they're going to try to monetize that data is, my God, if Neil and I are having a conversation, now every single word that we're saying, you now know how to target specifically based on our psychographic. That's one thing, but we have to look at the numbers too, because as of right now, as of this recording, they have 2 million users, which is not a lot in grand scheme of things because these other platforms have billions, but they have 800,000 daily active users. So 40% of your customer base is active. You got something there, right? And I think just looking at my own usage anecdotally, spending 30 hours a week on it or more, is that going to stay consistent? Probably not. But the question would be, Neil, and I'll leave this over to you, is right now it's valued at $1 billion. Do we think it's going to be 40 or 50 billion, which is still a great outcome, or do we think it's going to be like a Facebook type of outcome?
I don't think it's going to be a Facebook type of outcome, but I still think it'll be a multi-billion-dollar company.
Cool. Did you want to add something?
One thing you can do to grow your Clubhouse account is, and this is random, do what Eric does. If we're recording the podcast right now, he'll just be in a room, even if he's on mute, and he turns his volume down because it allows him to gain followers. Smart approach.
Yeah, so we don't know how long this is going to stick for, but I was just telling Neil before I started, which is why I was late to today's podcast recording. I started a room on tax strategies and I brought in a tax strategist, and that room's going right now. So I'm like, hey guys, I'm going to leave for a little bit, and then that's still going. You can do that. I've seen some people get super hardcore, like they'll buy 4 iPads or 4 phones and they'll join like 4 different rooms. Like sometimes I'm like, they're in 4 different rooms. What's going on here? You can do that. But at the end of the day, I think what's powerful about Clubhouse, especially if you're a good speaker and you can speak off the cuff, I'm not going to say Neil and I are really good at that. We can certainly speak, but some people can just go on and on. You're going to have an edge over other people. And what I think is impressive is the discoverability. Neil doesn't know this yet, but I bought a Rodecaster Pro to allow us to record podcasts there so we could get more discoverability. Because if you think about it from a marketer's perspective, because this is marketing school, the room I started on tax strategies, it didn't get super big, but like we brought in 150 people. If you're paying for webinar signups there, let's say you're paying $5, $10, $20 for webinar sign up. This is free right now. So to be able to build that audience and then get a loyal following, your voice, which is why you listen to this podcast too, listening to anybody's voice, there's a level of intimacy there. We both think it will stand the test of time. The question is how big. At least at the very least, I think the feature is here to stay. So that is it for today. I'm still on a book tour right now. The book's coming out in a couple of days, all right? Levelingup.com. You can go pick it up. Favorite online retailer. And we'll see you tomorrow.